We are thrilled to welcome you here to Sanford. For those of you who are visiting us for the first time, welcome. And my name is Manoj Mohanan. I'm the interim dean at the Sanford School of Public Policy. This lecture is made possible with the support of Lester Crown. We thank him for his long-term engagement with our school, with Duke, and for creating this specific lecture series. And a special thanks to our co-sponsors for today, which include Sanford's World Food Policy Center, Fuqua's Center for Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship, that is a CASE program, and Duke Community Affairs as well. We are looking forward to the talk by our special guest, whom I'll introduce in a minute, followed by a discussion by our own, led by our own Sanford professor, Dr. Norbert Wilson. Dr. Wilson is the director of the World Food Policy Center here at Sanford. He's a professor of food, economics, and community at the Divinity School at Duke, with a joint appointment here at the Sanford School. So he's very much one of us, and we're delighted he leads the World Food Policy Center here for us. His research touches on several issues related to food policy. He's an economist who studies access, choice, food waste, and domestic food systems. His work is also global in nature, so he does a little bit of everything. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker. Maggie Kane is the founder and executive director of A Place at the Table in Raleigh. After graduating from NC State University, she began working with a nonprofit that was working with people experiencing homelessness. And by befriending many people who were living on the margins, she knew that something needed to be done to help these individuals. And in 2015, Maggie created A Place at the Table. And since then, she's never looked back. In 2018, opening in 2018, the restaurant had a pay-as-you-can philosophy. So the pay-as-you-can restaurant continues to today serve thousands of people in Raleigh, helps them get dignified, affordable, and delicious meals. They even have a DoorDash now, right? Soon to be, yes. So hopefully someday DoorDash will start delivering food here in Durham as well. Among the many recognitions and awards that Maggie has received, most recently she was named the Local Business Leader of the Year by WRAL. Maggie has a heart to serve, a desire to always be inclusive, and a passion for loving people. Without further ado, please welcome Maggie Kane.
Amazing. So glad to be here with y'all. This is so fun as I look around and see some familiar faces. Really, thank you for coming out. It means a lot. I know everyone's weeks are so busy and so full. And so for you to take time to come and be a part of this conversation is just really, really humbling. And I just really appreciate it. So thank you for coming. Like I said, it's a joy to be here. My name is Maggie. I'm the founder and executive director of A Place at the Table. I have never been in this space, so it is a beautiful space. I've also never spoken in a space like this, which I love. And I think if I was in school, I would have probably sat like way at the top all the time. And so again, thank you for having me. And I hope that you start coming up with some good questions when we sit down. There are not many questions that I've not been asked before, so bring it on. First, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'll ask you a question, and then I'll dive into a couple different startup stories about how A Place at the Table came to be and what A Place at the Table is, and then we'll move into a Q&A. I grew up in Raleigh, Durham area, specifically Raleigh. Did anyone else grow up here? Okay, a couple people, including my next door neighbor from childhood, and the one that got me all throughout high school, and the one that supported me, and we had each other's back, and what you'll hear later in some of those fun high school times. Grew up in Raleigh. I am a twin sister. We were just before I was talking to some students here, and we were sharing some fun facts, and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to share a couple of the same fun facts, but I'm a twin sister, and she's the best. She is so cool. She lives in Cary, has 2 kids, who I'm a very proud aunt to. So one of my proudest joys in life is being an aunt, and I spend so much time with those kids. I also love to rollerblade. Anyone else in this room love to rollerblade? Okay, yep, okay. I know Christina, wherever she is, she may have left, but she's a rollerblader too. So I love to rollerblade. I love to jump rope. I love to travel. So 2 years ago, I hiked one of my best travels of all time. I hiked the Camino in Spain, which was such a blast. Anyone else hike the Camino? Okay, well, it sounds like we need some folks Caminoing, and if you ever want to, please let me know. And I love food, so funny enough, I get to work with food every day. I'm going to take a quick second and have you turn to your neighbor, and I am going to, we had this question on the board, but I am going to have you turn and talk to your neighbor real fast and share what's a place where you have felt truly welcome and that you belonged. And maybe share why if you feel comfortable. So I'm going to take a quick minute. You have a minute. Both of you share with your neighbor where a place that you felt truly welcome and that you belonged. Go. Okay. I love hearing the conversation. Anyone want to quickly just shout out a place that you feel like you have belonged or felt welcome? Sanford, yes, I'm seeing that today. With friends. Your in-laws' house, it's beautiful. With family. I see a friend's home with my wife, my church, this school. I said as soon as I walked in, I felt like I belonged. I saw people connecting. I saw people hugging. Being in this space with all of you, I feel like I belong. So I'm going to back us up. Thank you for taking part in that activity with me. And I'm going to back us way up to when I was a kid. I grew up in Raleigh, like I said, grew up with my twin sister, an older brother, and a fabulous mom who got us involved in a lot of service work. We were in a church, so we did a lot of volunteering work with the church and in other places in Raleigh. And I found myself in downtown Raleigh at the soup kitchen a lot. We in Raleigh probably, I know in Durham too, has a fantastic soup kitchen. It's still there and has been open for, I think, almost 50 years at this point, serving about 300 people a day a good meal, a place where they can come and get a good full meal and sit and eat and again, and really feed folks. So I found myself with my mom and a couple other friends. We were at the soup kitchen, okay? And we would go and volunteer. We would make whatever food was available that day. We would then serve. And I remember asking my mom, saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm serving this meal to this kid, and that kid looks like me. Why?" And I remember thinking, why am I on this side of the line, right? So a soup kitchen, if you've ever been in one, you walk through the line and there's a physical barrier in between you and the person serving. And so I would always ask my mom, like I said, why am I on this side of the line? And then at the end of it, we'd clean, we wouldn't eat the meal that we served, and then we'd go to Moe's or Chick-fil-A or somewhere else, and we'd sit for hours, and we would get to choose, and we'd sit and hang with our friends. And so I always wondered, why was I, this kid on this side, living this life, and then there was another kid on this side living this life? Why were we not all belonging together? Fast forward, I get a little bit older. I go to middle school. And anyone remember those really awkward middle school days? Raise your hand. Yes? High school too. If you would see my presentation, you would see right now me and a picture of Emily sitting right here. Very awkward on the school bus in high school. But I remember those middle school days. And I don't know if anyone else in this room was bullied or people made fun of you, but I was that kid. I was that kid that people made fun of, called specific names, and I will never forget that. It was really hard for me to find my place. It was really hard for me to belong and find where I belonged. When I went to high school, similar things happened, but I did find people, like I said, like Emily, who's right in front, where I could belong to. But over the span of those years, I didn't really know where I fit or where I belonged. Fast forward, I went to NC State, and go Pack, and I have to say that here, go Pack, but we don't hate against Duke. I know several friends that went to Duke, and it's a fantastic school, but I went to NC State, and I didn't think I was gonna go to state. I wanted to go to school, and I did go to school for international relations, so I am thinking that I am gonna move, and even move to a different school. So started looking at other schools and found myself going up to App. So if anyone in this room went to App, I loved App, but I found that it was really cold and really rainy the weekend that I went up to visit it, and I said, I will not be happy here. This is not the school that I will be okay going to. So ended up going to NC State and was super fortunate to have even gotten into college, and super fortunate to have the privilege to go to college, and specifically to go to NC State. So I found myself at NC State, and I am starting to get involved in different things. I'm starting to find some clubs. I joined a service fraternity, and I joined a campus ministry, and found myself in different community groups, and got to know a lot of people. Came to events like this where I heard some speakers. Now, I didn't go to a lot of these after hours, and I wish I had. We were talking earlier about all the cool opportunities that this school has, but I found myself being a part of different events, and getting to hear speakers. And so I'm at State. Again, I'm going to school for international relations. I think I am, just like I wanted to go to App and move away from Raleigh, Durham area, I think I am moving away from North Carolina in general. I'm moving out of the country. I'm either going to teach English, I'm going to work for an NGO somewhere. And it's funny how life changes, and how life can turn over and over. And hey, maybe one day, we were talking earlier when we were chatting with all together, we were saying, well, you never know what can happen, right? So maybe one day I'll move abroad. But I am at State. I hear this speaker. It's in my third year of college, and I heard a speaker come and talk about a day shelter that he was opening. A day shelter, for all who do not know, is a place for people who are experiencing extreme poverty or homelessness, where they can go and be in the day. So get out. I mean, today was a beautiful day, but on a day where it's cold or hot, they can go and get water, coffee, do laundry, and just have a place to be. There's not many places where folks have a place to be and to have some respite for a little bit. So this day shelter speaker was talking about this place, and I started to get involved. I felt that tug and said, I've got to get involved. So I went to this day shelter, and I never left. I loved it. I felt so connected to the folks I was meeting. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I had found my place. I started to get to know so many folks who were at this day shelter. I got to know their stories and their hopes and their dreams, and they got to know mine. They got to know me and celebrate me just like I got to celebrate them. When I graduated college, I'm still looking at different opportunities of where I could move, what I could do, and about 5-10 people from the day shelter came to my college graduation. They cheered me on, they celebrated me, they made me feel like I belonged. They made me feel like I was a part of their community. In that moment, I thought that this is the work that I want to do. This is the work that I want to continue to do. I want to be a part of what Raleigh is doing to keep including different folks from all different areas. So I took this job at the day shelter. I actually kind of made up my own job. They weren't really hiring, but I kind of forced my way in and never left, like I said. I started to get to know folks even more being at this day shelter. And for me, getting to know folks is done through food. Some students and I were just upstairs. We were eating snacks and talking. Food is that common thing. It's the thing we all have in common. It's the thing we all share. We all have to eat, and I think we all love to eat. I always find it really weird if you don't love to eat. And so I just know that food is that one thing that we share. And so I started to eat with folks because I wanted to get to know them more. And eating with folks facing extreme poverty or homelessness from the day shelter means that you go to the soup kitchen a lot. So I found myself back at the soup kitchen and back on the other side of the line, eating with folks, standing in line, getting a plate, sitting down, having to eat really, really quickly because they're feeding 300 people in an hour. They're feeding a lot of people, and they got to move folks in and out. And so I found myself always wanting more time with folks, and also always wanting choice, wanting wanting to figure out what else we could eat and go out for pizza or go out for another meal. And so I started taking folks out for meals. I'm a big celebrator. You'll hear me say that a lot. I celebrate all the little things. I love celebrating birthdays. I love celebrating anniversaries. And so we would go out and celebrate different moments. So someone's anniversary, someone's birthday, like I said, we would go out to a restaurant. So my friend John changed my life forever when we were at Golden Corral for the second time. John wanted to go to Golden Corral twice, and I said, John, why are we at Golden Corral? Do you love it? Backstory of John is he had been sleeping outside for about 3 months. He had found himself never sleeping outside his whole life, and then he lost his job, he lost his apartment. You know the story. And he found himself outside. He found himself eating at the soup kitchen. And so John and I became friends. And so we're at Golden Corral, we're sitting, we're chatting, and I said, John, do you choose Golden Corral because you're really hungry and you want to pile your plate on, you want to eat a lot of food before you go back to the shelter or before you go back to wherever you're going to go tonight? And he said, no, Maggie. He said, it's good, like I want to eat, but he said, I've chosen Golden Corral twice now for 2 reasons. First being, I have choice. He said, Maggie, people make every choice for me. These past 3 months, people make every choice for me, from what I eat to where I sleep. Here, I get to choose. I get to choose if I want to eat steak and potatoes, or if I want a salad, or if I want pizza. I get to make that choice. And then he said, more importantly, I feel seen here. He said, Maggie, people these past 3 months, they treat me as invisible. They literally step over me if I'm sitting, drinking water on the sidewalk. They step over me. They treat me as invisible. They don't see me. Here, someone greets me. They acknowledge me. They ask if I need a refill. They come and check on me. They say bye as I'm leaving. He said, Maggie, I feel seen here. And it was in that mic drop moment for me where I thought, we have to create a place where people have choice and people feel seen. And also in that moment where I thought, John and I were friends. John and I belonged together. John and I made each other feel like we belonged. And there needs to be more places where folks from all different areas and walks of life can come together and belong together. So fast forward, I started researching. I researched everything from social enterprises to faith communities to really, truly, you name it, I researched it. I went to the library. I checked out books. Turns out that they were very outdated. So then Google became my best friend, and we researched everything from all, like I said, all those different places and things that we could do to create a place for people to come together. We found the pay what you can system, which ironically led me right back to Boone, North Carolina, and saw a pay what you can restaurant called Farm Cafe. Feed all regardless of means. So I ended up right back on King Street in Boone at this pay what you can restaurant and learned from them. We went up about 5 or 6 different times and asked, how did you do this? What can we do? Do you think we can do it? How does the pay what you can system work? How many staff do you need? We asked every question, and they answered every question. And we said, okay, let's do it. And it's funny when I think back to those times and think the 5 or 6 different people that came up with us that first year all said, let's do it too. No one said, no, this is a terrible idea. So in 2014, we started working on this, and we started talking about it. We started bringing different people to the table. We started creating conversation on what we wanted this place to look like. We brought in a restaurateur, so someone who had restaurant experience that could show us how to open and run a restaurant. We brought in someone who was a lawyer and could read the legal paperwork that I knew nothing about and had zero interest in. We brought in an accountant, and lots of accountants, like Maureen sitting right here, who had that eye for numbers and could help build the budgets and help run the finance committees. We brought in all these different people over these next couple years that then made a place at the table happen. We then realized if we are going to start doing this, if we really want a place at the table, a pay what you can restaurant to open in Raleigh, then we need to start popping our concept up and living our concept out. And so we started launching, and we launched the second Saturday pop-up pay what you can meals. We did it for a year. The first one had 40 people maybe, and some of you in this room were there. The last one, the 11th or 12th one that we did had 450 people, and we saw that people wanted to belong. People wanted to be a part of a community. People wanted a place like this where they could come together and be in community together. By the end of that, with a lot in there, and feel free to ask in Q&A if you have questions, we opened A Place at the Table January 8th, 2018. Who's been? Okay, but we still have a lot of room for some people to come. I was telling the students earlier, we will see you all this week, next week, the week after. It's really not that far from here, and we would love to see you. So I'm gonna allow you to visualize this. So when you walk in, it looks and feels like a normal restaurant. You hear really good music, you see fun photos on the wall with friendly faces, you smell really, really good food, you smell cinnamon rolls and bacon and biscuits, and you don't think any different. You think we're this normal, trendy cafe that many of us would have the opportunity to go to. And it's only until you get up to the register, and at that point, you see different things happening. You see people with volunteer name tags. You see people running around. It feels really chaotic. Someone's greeting you at the door, and then you order your food, and you get a suggested price. So let's say you order a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, which is Maggie's favorite. We'll give you a suggested price. Then you can pay that suggested price. You can pay more and pay it forward for someone else who can't afford their meal. You can pay less. We know that some weeks are harder than others, and all you can do is pay less, and that is totally cool. We want you to pay less. If you can't pay less, you can pay by volunteering with us. So you can come in and volunteer for your meal and volunteer alongside so many other volunteers. And if you can't pay less, volunteer. We also have place cards. These cards are full meal cards, and they get handed out to about 20 nonprofits in our community, food banks, food pantries, the shelters, and folks who are part of those services can, if they are in need of a good meal and a good community, they can come back and eat with us with that card. We also feed families for free. We want to be a space for families to come in. We just moved it to once a week, so families can come in once a week and eat with us and get a good meal with their family, have dignity, have choice, sit and enjoy like so many of us get the opportunity to do. Our mission is community and good food for all, regardless of means. And so, as I said earlier, we're using that good food as a tool towards creating community, towards bringing people together, towards connecting people. We always say we're fighting food insecurity, and we're feeding a lot of people, some days upwards of 200 people in that space who need a meal every single day. But we're really fighting community insecurity, creating a place for people to belong and to feel a part of it and to feel welcome and a part of a larger community that so many of us need. I think the pandemic taught us a lot years ago. Life continues to teach us a lot. It teaches us that there are hungry people in this world. That is no doubt. And that is what so many of you in this room are working on at this school. But there's also really lonely people. There's a loneliness epidemic, and people need each other. People need to be in community. So out of community, so many other good things can happen. So we opened A Place at the Table in January of 2018, that cafe I just told you about, and it worked, and people showed up. People showed up to belong and be a part of the bigger community. A Place at the Table has been so fun for me over the years to develop relationships and get to be a part of so many people's lives. People ask me all the time, what is my favorite part? And it is truly my favorite part is sitting with people, loving people, getting to know people, belonging, and making them feel like they belong. And so I'm going to tell you a couple stories about some fantastic humans that are a part of Table every day that truly are the superheroes that make this place so special and have made this place so special. I'm going to first tell you about a place that, or a couple that has created a place at A Place at the Table. So we have a couple that started coming in right when we opened their doors. They live down the street, and they were just going out on their little stroll, and they usually go to Starbucks, which no hate towards Starbucks, but they really were curious when they were passing it. What is this place? What does it look like? What does it taste like? So they came in, they sat at a table. They came back the next day. And still to this day, one of them is no longer with us, but the other still comes every single day. He walks down from his apartment and he sits at a table. He sits mostly with people. His table, we had a table for a long time before we renovated, and it was the same table he sat at all the time, and it was the table that everyone sat at. You know, you've probably sat at it, Adria. It's the table that everyone has sat at with him. And so for him, it's been so neat for me to see that he belongs and he feels a part of it, and this is his community too. Turns out they became some of our biggest donors too, and have truly felt so connected to this community where, again, what place do you go to every single day? The next person I want to tell you about is, I haven't told this story in a while, and it is the OG story, and it is the story I think about all the time of why a place at the table is so important. And it's a story that I see the example over and over and over. We have a guy named Dino, and he was always great with me sharing his name. And he started coming to us right when we opened too. Dino was sleeping outside and was just walking around all day, every day. Didn't really have a place, didn't really know where he belonged. He found a place at the table. He came in. He didn't talk at all. He would order a waffle every day like clockwork, always a waffle. And then he would do dishes. So he would do dishes for hours. So he'd order his waffle, volunteer, and then eat his food, and then volunteer for his meal and do dishes. About 6 months, a year in to us being open, Dino started talking. He started saying more things. We would bring folks back to the dish room and show them how to do dishes. And Dino was always the one that wanted to show folks. About 6 months after that, we had a news station come out and do an interview, and they asked Dino to talk. And I stepped in and said, no, Dino doesn't want to talk to the news about a place at the table. And he said, no, Maggie, I do. And he told them how great and how much a place at the table meant to him. And then a year later, he didn't want to do dishes anymore, and he wanted to come on the floor and dance and talk and tell the table story and greet. The pandemic happens, he disappears. He's no longer there. We flipped our model and we did curbside. We served about 400 meals every single day, and we really fed folks. Dino did not show up to get that meal, even though we knew he was sleeping outside and probably needed that meal. Once we opened back inside, who showed up day 1, day 2? Dino himself. And that just goes to show you the power of belonging and feeling a part of a larger community. And Dino, just like we were his community, he was just as much our community. Dino has now moved to Florida, which is very sad, but we're still hoping one day he makes it back. Our team. So I am the biggest believer in their entrepreneurship is not alone, like a thing that you do alone. You do it with a team. You do it with community. And our team are just like, the couple I told you about and Dino. Our team are the heroes. They show up every single day and do this work. They show up every day and make people feel like they belong. And we truly have the best team in the world, which 2 of them are sitting right here. Thank you for being here. Kay and Adria. Yes. Thank you for doing the work. And so our team makes people feel like they belong every day. We always, when you walk in the restaurant, we always have a door greeter. I was saying earlier, it's the one thing I get upset about if there's not a door greeter standing at the door. There better be a door greeter, because we have one chance to make you feel like you belong, to make you feel like you are welcome. That is your chance. That is our chance, and that is our failure if we don't make you feel that way. So our team does that every single day. We had a guy on our team named Alaric, and he passed away about 2 years ago, but he is the example and what all of us strive to be on the Place at the Table team, and I hope strive to be. He joined our team and was cooking, doing a lot of the food prep, food operations, making the killer biscuit that we talked about. But anytime someone walked in and there was not someone at the door, Alaric would hop over that line and go and make sure they knew the mission, make sure they felt connected, make sure they felt a part of what we were doing. And so that is, Alaric forever will be the model of what we do and who we are. And so our team is so much of the Alarics of the world, making people feel like they belong. He is the best of the best, and so is everyone else on our team. And I'm here to say that loneliness does not discriminate, right? We all feel a part of this, or we all feel that loneliness. We all feel a part of that. If I did do a show of hands, I'm sure we've all felt lonely in our lives at different moments. And I'm also here to say that we can all be a part of the solution. We can all be a part of creating places or times or moments or memories where people belong and where people feel a part of it. It is really that simple. I get asked all the time, how do you create community? How do you make people feel like they have dignity and they have choice and they belong? And it's really simple. It starts with 2 letters, and it's just hi. It's just saying hi. It's saying, hi, I see you. You don't have to say that part. But I see you. I see your humanity. I sense a connection to you because you are human. We can all do that. We can all turn to any person we see out in this world and just say hi, because we are humans in this space together, and we all want to belong. Just like I said, loneliness does not discriminate. We all feel it over various times in our lives. So now I am going to pass it back to you real quickly, and then I promise I'll end so we can do a Q&A. But I'm going to pass it back to you, and I want you to turn to your neighbor, and I want you to share a place where you can make people feel truly welcome or that they belong. Where is a place where you can allow folks to feel seen, have dignity, and where is a place where you can provide a place at the table for someone else? So I want you to turn to your neighbor again and share where a place that you can now, going out into this world, make people feel like they belong to. Go. All right. Oh, that was so good. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I hope that you will come to the reception after and continue to share those things, because it's so important. Making people feel like they belong and us belonging is just one of the most critical things that I believe in life. And Mother Teresa, I'm going to end us with this, and then we'll move into the Q&A. But Mother Teresa reminds us, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So go belong to each other. Go create places where we all can belong and all have a place at the table. Thanks, y'all, for coming.
I'm intrigued by your concept of community insecurity. How do you see that playing out, and what do you think that means for us as a society?
Definitely. I love that. I think we are all so disconnected in. Sure.
Can you switch seats because our cameras are trying to capture you?
Sure. They don't care about you.
I will just switch.
Just face the camera. Just kidding. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I think society right now is so disconnected, and we're all living in our own silos. We're all doing our own thing. Life is really hard, so it's easy to be in our own silos. And so I just think we all need places where we feel connected, and out of community, so many good things can happen. A place at the table is not me. A place at the table is this community. So many people in this room made it happen and continue to make it happen. And so when we come together and really be in community with one another, this is where the beautiful things happen. This is where the change happens. This is where all of you in this room come together, and any of you students in this school, you are the change makers of the future, and you are the ones dreaming in this space together. And so I think it's so easy to be lonely. It's so easy to be in our own little silo, but life's so much better in community.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate this. And I understand this idea of community insecurity also having implications for mental health.
Oh, yeah.
But it also has something to do with our civic health.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we vote, the way we support the policies that we all are affected by. And I'm interested in understanding how you're creating a third space, this outside of the home, maybe outside of even religious institutions, where different people are coming together. So I'd love for you to talk to us about who's really at a place at the table.
At the table. Everyone, all of you in this room will be at a place at the table. But really, a place at the table is the most beautiful space because we're all there. I see all of us in that space, and that's what's so cool, is you don't know when you walk in or you're volunteering, you don't know who paid for their meal, who paid more, who paid less, who's volunteering, what family's eating for free. There is all different types of folks that are in that space, and type was lack of a better word in that moment, but all different folks that are really in the space together and breaking down those barriers. And that's what's so cool and so neat to see, is that it's all of us. It represents the community that we all want to be a part of, and the community that is where we live.
Yeah. I'm grateful for that, and it makes me think of this idea of creating community by proximity.
Yeah.
And so we talked earlier about Brian Stevenson talks about this idea of proximity and encourages us to do that. From the people who maybe they're just a volunteer, if you will, how, if at all, have you seen their lives change by being close to people who may need the services for free?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And so how it works is, just to give you a little background, is anyone can volunteer, anyone can come and eat, right? So we have folks, we have about, I'm about to blow your mind a little bit, we have about 100 volunteers a day in our space. Some of you in this room have volunteered. And so, like I said, the cool part is you don't know who volunteered for their meal, who signed up for a weekly shift, who's coming in with a group from their corporate volunteering, and everyone's doing the same thing. There's no hierarchy. So, 3 or 4 folks are in the dish room doing dishes, having conversation. Folks are food running. Folks are greeting at the door. Everyone's doing the same thing. So again, you don't know who is volunteering for their meal and who is not. And so what's been so neat to see is in that dish room, for example, you've got 3 or 4 people who are scrubbing dishes, drying dishes. And I always say that it's like the coolest place to be because it's where you hear the music the loudest. You get an instant facial being in that like hot, warm, like liquid coming up at you. And then are you, if you know, you know. And it's where you have the best conversation because a song comes on and you start talking about who wrote that song. And then it starts going to like, where were you from? Oh, I'm from Durham too. Cool. And you really start to break down those barriers and start building those relationships and building that community and start to really get to know one another. And out of that, to answer your question, that's where so many cool things have happened. That's where jobs have happened, right? So folks that have learned different skills in the restaurant and maybe met a connection in the restaurant have been able to get a job in the restaurant industry. Or someone needs help moving something and they made that connection and then they make this friendship. So a lot of really neat things happen out of a place at the table. The other cool thing I'll say is, you've heard me say this a bajillion times, community. People always say that it's like my number one word used, like I should get it tattooed on my body. I probably will not, but I do use the word community a lot because again, I think it's so important. And so we have become this place where people feel safe. People trust. People know that people in our space are safe people. And so that is also where a lot of conversation happens. We welcome a lot of different nonprofits. So we have a lot of nonprofit partnerships all across town. But those folks will come in and host a table. So they'll pop a table up and they'll tell folks about the work they're doing, about their food pantry or about their organization that works with youth. And so then we also see folks then get resources that they may need. We say that we do 2 things well. We do food and community well. Everything else we do not do well, and we're not going to try to do well, but we're going to connect you to the resources you need. So we have found that we've been that safe space that then folks can come in and tell folks about what they're doing, get them connected to the other resources that they may need, whether that be a job, whether that be housing, whether that be food, other food. So we've become that place that also is that community collaborative space where people can build trust and then get the resources they need.
Oh, this is great. I really am also interested in this idea, and we talked about this earlier. Working in the charitable food sector, there are lots of people who are critiquing it and saying, just giving another meal is not solving the problem. We need a deeper structural change. And so how are you thinking about that as an organization that is charity and yet there's kind of money being exchanged? How do you think about this idea of fighting for justice, but also recognizing there's still a need for charity.
Yeah, definitely. I say this a lot that I was very fortunate to do a TED Talk, and I named it Soup Kitchen 2.0, and it's one of my biggest regrets, literally, because I do not want to ever say that soup kitchens are not needed and not important. They are so valued. As I mentioned, they're feeding people. They are fighting food insecurity, and so are so many places that are feeding folks, and it's so important. And we need places that are handing out food. We need places that are solving that meal, because without the meal, like, kids can't study. Without the meal, kids, students at Duke can't go change the world. So, like, we need the meal, we need the clothes, we need all those things to sustain, and that is super important. For us, we always, or what we say is again, we are just doing a different way. We're creating a different way of doing it. We're creating a way where we can also have some of those conversations and educate folks on food insecurity, educate folks on community insecurity, that then can hopefully change some bigger problems. So we host something called Coffee and Conversations. So we bring folks into our space and we talk about different things we see in the community or food insecurity space, and we want the larger community to be a part of it, because education's key, right? And we have this space that people can come in and learn and then take it out into the world. And so we host any sort of conversation on that, so whether it be mental health, whether it be of various topics, and so that then folks can take that out into the world and continue to work on these bigger challenges. So, I mean, I think that's such a good question. And so I don't diminish what folks are doing already, because that's important. And we send folks to all of those places. But we're just creating that other place that's also equally as important, where we can have those conversations, we can come together. And then the third thing, we can bring folks that may never have set foot in a soup kitchen, may never even know what it is, and we can invite them to be a part of the different nonprofits that exist, invite them to understand what food insecurity looks like. And it doesn't look like what we see in if we was to Google right now, soup kitchen, that image. And so, we're also in stating that we're all one step away and could be one step away from poverty, from homelessness, from any of those things. But many of us got fortunate, or many of us have relationships that got us out of it. And so for us, we have this great, beautiful opportunity to invite other folks to understand that deep work even more, and learn and educate themselves, and then go out into the world and educate other people.
Well, thank you, Maggie. I think it's a great time to turn it over to you all. If you all have questions for Maggie, we have a mic back here, and would you mind joining?
Thanks, Maggie, for taking the time to be here and speak to us about the work you do. I volunteered in a decent amount of food insecurity spaces, food pantries, et cetera. How do you reconcile with the amount of food waste or the quality of food that is served to those people in need?
Yeah,
how do you get around that?
Yeah, fantastic question, and thanks for volunteering in those spaces. It's really important. For us, we actually don't have a lot of food waste. I know that sounds surprising, but that was also when we first started. We thought about that a little bit. Certainly, like I said, we do food and community well, so we have not focused on a lot of different other areas, but everything in our restaurant is made to order, cooked. Like that morning, we're prepping a certain amount. We usually run out, so everything is made to order, and or frozen, reused, or given away to our staff, which that goes to show there's not a lot of food waste at all. And so we haven't really had to deal with that. If and when it was to happen, maybe a handful of times we have an event where we have extra food, or someone calls us and says, where can we donate their food to? We will just send it right to another nonprofit of ours. So we work with a lot of the shelters. So we'll just then send it right over to one of those shelters. But we've been lucky to not have that. We also, on the food topic, we use as local as possible. And so we use Raleigh City Farm, which donates all of their local produce. We use a local egg company. We use a local coffee company. So we try to support those local businesses too. And then again, really everything chef made to order, right on the spot. But good question. I think that's really important.
Other questions? Yes, please.
Hi, Maggie. Hi. Thanks for being here. I had a question. I think as we are kind of entering into a space where nonprofit, their role is changing, and NGO's role is changing, and that you've kind of done something that was really difficult. I think Andres was like, you are a social entrepreneur and a restaurateur, and those together is really difficult. Can you share with us a moment really critical moment where you thought this might not happen?
Yeah.
And how you kind of grew through that and what the solution ended up being?
Yeah, I love that question. That's a great question. Thank you. So a time we thought this wouldn't happen. So what I didn't really tell you in starting a place at table, it's so funny. Some people will say, when we first opened, we've been following you the whole time. We've been following your whole journey. And I'll always say, oh, since like end of 2014. And they'll say, no, 2017. And so the 4 years of building a place at the table, there were so many challenges. We never thought we'd get a space. There are some head nods in here because you were in the space with me, literally, in that emotional space, or I should say. And so we never thought we'd have a space. And so there were lots of moments where we would call a landlord and they would immediately say, we don't want that space in our space. So we came up against a lot of challenges. And also it was that like common statement of chicken and egg where we didn't have any money in the bank, so we couldn't really have moved into a space anyway. And then we didn't have a space, so we couldn't raise money. So we were kind of stuck in limbo. And that's really when we started living our mission out, which was the best thing that we did, living the mission out, doing the pop-ups and creating the community. And so what I did in those moments, so there's a lot of specific examples, but I can just use that whole not having a space and getting turned down a lot, of then the power of community. I go back to that, the power of relationships. We always say, and I did not create this word. I told some folks earlier I did not create this word. I wish I did, because I would have trademarked it. We friend raised for 4 years, not fundraised. So we made friends and relationships that then opened up a place at the table, then still continue to support a place at the table. And so in those moments, we relied on the relationships that we had. We called different landlords. We called different folks that we knew could potentially connect us to someone else who may have a space. And so we really relied on the community to make it happen. And what's so beautiful about that is I look back and I still, every day, this is Raleigh's community cafe. So I talked about the staff and the volunteers being the heroes. Raleigh's also the hero. So when we get these awards, Business Leader of the Year, it's not me, it's Raleigh. I am not a restaurateur. I am not hardly a nonprofiter. Whatever that word would be, but it is the community that has made it happen, and everyone with their different expertise and skills, from someone who owned a restaurant to someone who knew the books, someone who knew the legal work, folks that do the work, that show up and volunteer at the events. All of them made it happen. And so it feels like a cliche answer, but it truly was that, is like, we felt so discouraged many times. I personally felt so discouraged many times. And then but we knew like this community backed it and they weren't gonna let it go. And I think community movements are powerful, and a place at the table is a community movement that still remains here. And I said this earlier, but like, this business model is not supposed to work, but yet the community is continuing to carry it. And so I think it's just the power of community that continues to make it happen. Great question.
Thank you so much for talking to us about your experience. And I was wondering, given in the current economy, a lot of our students are thinking, if the job market doesn't look like what it is, but a lot of them might have ideas around entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What would you tell our students about how do you prepare for a life as an entrepreneur in the public service space?
Yeah.
It's a unique space.
Yeah.
And does it need different skill sets? Does it need a different approach towards running a business? And
Yeah.
what would your advice be?
That's an awesome question. I've never gotten that question. I love that. And I think it multiple things. One, community. Rely on people, build relationships with people that have different skills that you don't have. That is super important. We're not supposed to be good at all. I think entrepreneur, even social entrepreneur, has this like bad rep that like you're supposed to do it all alone and you're building a business, you're by yourself, and that's just not true at all. I don't believe it. At least I don't. And so build relationships, bring people along with you. It's really lonely by yourself if you don't bring people along with you. I think the second thing is be innovative. One, I'll say first would be if there is something that you are passionate about, find other people that are doing that work too. So go see the existing organizations. Don't reinvent the wheel, okay? There are a lot of good things that exist. So for us, like, we didn't need to start our this other restaurant that wasn't a Pay What You Can restaurant. We saw that the Pay What You Can restaurant existed. Okay, so let's go learn from them. They've already figured it out. They have the toolkit. Let's learn from them and let's bring it back to where we see it needs to be, and maybe adjust. Maybe end up joining forces with them, like never needing to reinvent the wheel that already exists. The third thing is, if that doesn't exist, I think it is being innovative. New, and not innovative in a way that's like you have to be different, and just ways that make sense for where we're at in the world, ways that make sense for the economy, ways that make sense for people. So I think just being innovative and working with the resources you have to create things that will change the world. I mean, right now, we're gonna have to think of a lot of, all you students in this room are gonna have to think of a lot of new ways to change the world, and we know you're gonna do it. And so I think that there's a lot of creative ways using existing organizations, using existing models that will continue to affect change. The other thing, I had one more thing I wanted to say. It may come back to me. But again, I'll go back to, like, really the power of people is huge, the power of resources that you have, the power of this school and the resources they have. This is what I was gonna say is, we at Table are trying right now to be innovative. We have been doing very similar thing for 7.5 years, and we're realizing that we have to change. We cannot rely solely on fundraising, because yes, shocker there, our business model is not sustainable. We have to fundraise a lot of money, and so we are realizing that we can't really rely on fundraising where the world is going. Sure, there's always gonna be some fundraising, but the world as it is now, it's a trickle-down effect for lots of different nonprofits. So we're so fortunate we have a revenue generator that we get to use, which is the restaurant. So how can we think creatively and innovative-wise of what we can do in the restaurant to continue to be there, to continue to be a part of people's lives? And so I say that to a lot of nonprofits, a lot of social entrepreneurs too, that I get the opportunity to talk to is how can you think of ways to generate revenue? How can you think of different business ideas that can bring in other sources of income and not just relying on that one source that we've always been used to? Good question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for sharing. I think maybe along the lines of what you said, are you thinking of, should other restaurants follow suit? What are the ideas for potential expansion, or even in other city satellite areas? What is your idea on that?
Great question. Thank you for that question. So I'll start with the first one. Should other restaurants follow suit? And I said this earlier, but one of the longest standing jokes, that's not really a joke, but that I've talked to other restaurateurs about is that, people who own restaurants, is that restaurants are nonprofits already, and then you make a restaurant and a nonprofit together, and you're already kind of not doing well. So restaurants are really hard. So if you have the opportunity, support your restaurants, because it is a struggle to really do well, right? To make money. And so I would love to see restaurants do something like this, but I think it's probably just not sustainable. It's not something that is possible for a lot of restaurants. I was saying this earlier to a group of students, what I've loved seeing the restaurant industry get involved in, though, if any of you know restaurant people, is getting involved in the larger policy level work where restaurant leaders in this space are coming together, and they're talking about some of these systems that exist. They are talking about how can we collaborate together more to really be able to take care of our staff and our team and our restaurants. It is a lot of folks that work in restaurants are some of our most food insecure people, and so it is really hard to get a livable wage working in a restaurant, unless you're in the top restaurant, right? So I think that what restaurant owners can do is be a part of that policy work and engaging together to hopefully affect change at a larger systems level for restaurants, to support restaurants and their staff for years to come. I think the other thing I'd say is, for us, we don't believe that we're opening other ones. We believe that a place at table works in the community that it works in. It works in downtown Raleigh. We would love to see one in Durham, but we don't feel like we're those folks to do it. But we feel like we're the people that will work alongside a group that wants to start one in Durham, which we currently are. And so the hope would be that there is going to be one in Durham. But that's the cool thing with these restaurants is they fit where they fit. And what I learned in so many years of working with different pay what you can restaurants and learning from them is they fit where they fit. And so who's to say that we know what downtown Durham should be like? So we want to see these exist, and we're happy to share what we've learned over the years with people that want to do this work. But it's not ours to do. We did just launch a food truck though. So the food truck's idea is somewhat of a, as I say, create something innovative that can generate some, different methods of bringing in income. And that's what the food truck would be. It would be that way to not only do outreach and go out to other communities, but to generate revenue out in the community. Good question.
We'll take one more question
Ooh.
and we'll wrap up.
Andres.
Great. Hey, thank you. I remember in your story, one of your pivotal moments was when you actually experience the problem,
Yeah.
and then that gives you the inspiration
Yeah.
to start your own thing. So how would you perhaps encourage the leadership at Sanford, the students, to go beyond the classroom? We are learning a lot of really interesting and meaningful things, but how can we go beyond the classroom and actually experience
Yeah.
the problem by ourselves?
Ooh, I love
so
that.
we can kind of like do something applied on that experience.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great question. It's called District C back there. So if you don't know about District C, you should. They work with high school students that are experiencing hands-on experiences in the community to help solve bigger problems. So it's huge, and I would love to see, I'm sure that happens a lot in Sanford too, is when you connect with different organizations that have problems. We've worked with a lot of NC State classes that have done that, which is always really helpful to have that hands-on experience. The other thing I'd say on like a personal level is there's a famous theologian that says your passion meets halfway with the world's greatest need. It's not that it's more articulate than how I say it, but it works. And so I think like whatever is keeping you up at night, whatever is exciting you or making you think about it, whether you're in class or whether you're outside of class, is find that. Talk to your advisors, talk to your deans, talk to your, you are a great person to talk to about this and see kind of what exists in the community to get involved with. Any of us would take y'all. So any of our nonprofits, any of our social enterprises, we would take you and get you involved and be like boots on the ground, hands-on experience. And so I speak for myself, but I do speak for a lot of other organizations that would too. So whatever is keeping you up at night, whatever is making you wonder or making you see where you want to be a part of changing that system, talk to your advisors, talk to your folks on campus and get involved. Good question though.
Well, let's thank Maggie again for a
Thank
great
y'all.
talk.
No, thank y'all for coming. It means a lot. I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to show up except my front row people. So thank y'all for coming.
Please join me again once more to thank our speaker, Maggie Kane, and Dr. Norbert Wilson as well. As we wrap up this evening, I'd like to invite you to check your email, not right now, when you get home. There's an online evaluation form you'll receive in your email for today's event, so please do give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you, and also suggestions for future events and speakers that you'd like to give us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in learning more about our event, our website has plenty of resources. We're getting to the end of this semester now, but we are already gearing up for a fantastic semester coming up in the next academic year. Amazing speakers coming up, so please do join us. And finally, as Maggie reminded us earlier, we have a reception waiting for you, so never get in the way of good food and people. So let me stop and invite you to join us for the reception. Thank you all for joining us.